Sup Boys, Noah Gragson, and Daniel Hemrick. They fought on pit road and stuff. Everybody was like, holy shit, you know. This was a big deal for some reason. I'm not really even entirely sure why, frankly, but it is, so I'm talking about it. Because I saw a radioactive, like the race hub shit that Fox does. They had Brad Keselowski and Jeff Gordon in there along with Adam Alexander, and they're talking about the whole thing, being like, hey, what should happen in this circumstance, and yada yada yada. Plus they got to talk about their 2014 shit. I really wish that those shows weren't segmented for television, because they would be a lot better, and unfortunately they have to keep everything within segment to segment to fit in between the commercials. So it was a shitty segment. It was really small. It wasn't in depth. It wasn't very good. But what I thought was interesting was Jeff Gordon talking about the Noah Gragson and Daniel Hemrick deal, because at the end of it, they agree to disagree, because of course they fought before, Brad and Jeff Gordon. So they were looking at the footage of Hemrick going too far into Gragson's box, fucking him up. Then Gragson comes into his pit box. He has to back up. So, I mean, he probably didn't fucking hit him on purpose. And it's really... I don't see why you would do that on purpose, because the right rear of your car is too important. You wouldn't just fuck up the right rear of your car to be like, hey, fuck you because you drove through my box. Like, that's counterintuitive. Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's stupid enough to do that, because there's no point. You know what I mean? So they were talking about that whole deal, and that's what Brad Keselowski was saying, being like, look, he didn't do it on fucking purpose. Like the Gragson part backing up into it. Didn't do it on purpose. It's pretty obvious, because why would you? I just laid it out for you. That's another reason why their segments are too fucking short and they're not worth it, and that show is kind of fucking pointless, because you can't really like get into that kind of shit to really prove one way or the other who was right or who was wrong. But Jeff Gordon was like, I don't think he did it intentional either, whatever. So they kind of agreed. Brad was saying, oh, I didn't think Gragson backing up into him was intentional, and then Jeff Gordon was like, well, I think it is, kind of. I'm not entirely sure. I'm Jeff Gordon, So at the end of that whole thing, though, Jeff Gordon was like, man, good thing none of these punches landed, because if they did, then NASCAR would have laid down penalties and fines. And I've always been of the opinion that NASCAR should allow these motherfuckers to fight. Like, nobody on pit road should get involved. There should be a no get involved clause if you're a crew member and you go in there and you try to get in with the drivers fighting, unless you're trying to separate. There's a really clear difference between trying to separate and escalate. If somebody's escalating something and they're a crew member, you can't really do anything at the time, so you have to fine them later or give them a suspension, because I feel like that's more relevant. It would make the fights actually fights, And another part that really drives me crazy is the fact that, like, NASCAR objectively did not give a fuck about Jeff Gordon going out there and junking Clint Boyer at Phoenix with, 2 races to go or 3 races to go or whatever it is. I think they have, Phoenix, then it's Texas. Or no, Texas, Phoenix, and then Homestead. So, yeah, the race before the championship race, you know what I mean? Completely junked him. I mean, worse than I've even seen at, like, local short tracks. Like, I mean, he junked this guy, like, hard as fuck. Junked the shit out of Clint Boyer. And there was no talk of any kind of, like, you get suspended for that. He got fined for it, because, NASCAR is going to fine anybody for anything. They always have and they always will, and it'll continue to be that way, because they, put up this facade of, oh, it goes into this, like, charity. Like, we move this money around to charities because y'all are assholes, and that's our social responsibility of some sort, is what they act like. But in reality, that money just goes back to NASCAR. It never goes to a charity. Like, shut the hell up. It's not doing that. And if it did, then they're wasting money. Either way. Somebody's going to be like, you're saying charities are a waste of money? No, but I think NASCAR should keep it. Like, for sure. If it's a penalty that one of their fucking athletes made that was actually like a big deal, then yeah, you keep that money. And you fucking do something with it. Put it back into infrastructure. They need all the money that they can get, really. Or social media or something. Use the money that y'all are forcing these assholes to pay because of the sport that they're involved in. And then that's another thing, where these sports are all trying to hold like some sort of social relevance, and they're trying to not look like jokes 9 times out of 10. When stuff like that happens, like Malice in the Palace with NBA, the bottle gate of the NFL with Cleveland, you've got 2014 Texas with Brad Keselowski and Jeff Gordon. You had Jeff Gordon and Clint Boyer in 2012. I can keep naming more. You got Joey Logano and Martinsville. My point is, they don't care about what happens on track. On track doesn't really matter because, in reality, if we are actually doing true punishment for crimes, like on the track, right? So this is another example of just how lazy NASCAR is, but also it illustrates my point. So Charlotte Roval first race 2018, they show up and they have that, bus stop on the backstretch, right? So you've got a left and a left, a right and a right, another right, and then you're back onto the oval. So instead of just making it to where they have to fucking penalize people, like they actually have to officiate the race, that NASCAR officials must officiate the race and do track limits and things like that, they didn't want to do that. So they were like, let's put this tire wall right on this, corner coming right out of the bus stop, like the fastest part, the part that you're supposed to straight line to take more speed back up onto the banking, right? They put a fucking wall like literally right there. So this is the end of the corner, right? And here's where cars pass through. Just going right through. They're trying to shoot this gap, right? People are clobbering it because NASCAR does not want to officiate the shit. And this is another instance of Noah Gragson, even though he didn't mean to do it, should have been penalized for it. You backed up into somebody else while they were in a box. That should be a thing. I've never understood why that's not a penalty, or it's never been a penalty, or any of that shit. It's weird. If you run into somebody on pit road, I feel like it should be a penalty no matter what happens, really. If you hit them and it's not even your fault, I don't care. You hit them on pit road, so if NASCAR really truly cared about like pit road safety, they'd do shit like that. Like, the guy backed up into him with a 3,500-pound car. It wasn't hard or anything, but imagine if the right front tire carrier or tire changer, fucked it up a little bit, and then here comes Noah Gragson, half pissed off, half, trying to get into his box, and then I accidentally back into you and break your back or something. Something wacky like that. He should be penalized for that. There should be a fine for that. I'm not sitting here siding with Daniel Hemrick or any of that. Hello, focus? All right. I'm not siding with Daniel Hemrick or any of that shit, but the fact of the matter remains is that NASCAR does not care about what you do on track. Like they did with the Matt Kenseth and Joey Logano thing, because it was so outlandish, it was so out of the normal for what is considered to be like top tier motorsports racing, like in any motorsport, whether it be F1, MotoGP, NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, fucking, you name it. That was a big deal. That was a big one because this guy was out of the race, came back into the race, junked this fucking dude, and that made him lose a championship. So then they were like, we'll find Matt Kenseth. We'll keep him out until the last race of the year. It's one fucking race, you know what I mean? Like it was, or Martinsville, how many races was that? He was out for like 2, I think. It was supposed to be a 3-race suspension. It should have been the whole rest of the season, but they gave him the 2. basically, in essence, this whole video is saying that like NASCAR doesn't give a fuck about letting them get out of the cars and act retarded, but when they're in the cars and act retarded, there's no penalty for it. And then when you get out of the cars, as long as the punch isn't landed, then there's no penalty. And it's like, bro, I don't understand why you would even give people penalties for fighting in the first place when like your main thing for the past, what's 2021, so 7 years or 6 years or whatever, since 2014, that whole system has bred fighting. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing was to add controversy, you know, etc. So it's like this facade of like, we're gonna do something. Just kidding, we're not gonna. Into the back pile with you. Fucking hit the fucking right into the garbage disposal. You know what I mean? Right into the garbage can at the end of the room. They were just like, fuck it. And that's what I don't understand is like circumstances like Martinsville in 2012 with Clint Boyer and Jeff Gordon. You sit them down in the holler and you'd be like, bro, so this is retarded. It was clearly just a racing accident. It's clear that Hendrick's been out of shape. It would have been their 200th win. Cool, but I don't care about that. If I see any retaliation on track, you're getting a major penalty and they're getting a major penalty. Like, Jeff Gordon will be getting a major penalty and Hendrick will be getting a major penalty. Because I would rather not see people intentionally junking people on track, but there is a reason for it and it's in the sport for a reason, but it definitely should be penalized. Because people are going to do it anyway. Like, don't get it twisted. They do it anyway. Like, there used to be actual, realistic, true officiating in NASCAR. There is not anymore. It does not exist. It hasn't. It's not going to. So I would rather them just, like, drop all these dumbass fucking rules in general. Just drop them then. Because there's no point. Like, the fighting shit, like, why are you going to penalize people for fighting when y'all have bred that system for them to fight in? You know what I mean? Like this whole point system, the way that it works, you're not crowning real champions. You're not crowning the true, actual, like the person who ran the best the entire year, best average finish, most wins, whatever. You know, you're not even crowning real fucking champions. Like Kevin Harvick to the point being like, I don't give a fuck about championships. The only thing that I want to do is win races. You know, this video is to say NASCAR is stupid as fuck, but also to be like, dude, if you really wanted to have a legitimate shot with the American public again, to be like popular, to have a popular sport, get rid of your retarded rules. Get rid of your retarded rules. Like for the fighting, get rid of that retarded shit. Doesn't need to be there. Intentional wrecks? Yeah, fuck it. Penalize them all day. Track limits, penalize them all day. Like that's the point of racing. Racing, if I do something fucked up on the track, I get penalized for it because that breaks the rules. You know what I mean? But if we have fighting, if I walk up to you at the end of the race and I deck you in the fucking mouth, the only person that should be able to say shit about it is you and the cops. File a fucking, you know, I assaulted you shit. You know what I mean? Not this fucking, $25,000 fine from NASCAR for fighting. It's like, y'all don't want us to stop fighting. Never want them to stop fighting. So it's like, why are you even holding up that facade? Like, stop it. You know what I mean? Because if you were serious about the whole fighting shit, y'all would have been serious from moment one. I just find it disturbing that these non-officiating motherfuckers always want to act like they're actually going to officiate something when they never fucking do. Like, does anybody else watch this stupid fucking sport and look at that kind of shit and not be like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? Or is it just me? I think it's just me. It's probably just me.